Hello and welcome back to Ground Level Theology. With me, as always, the co-host to Ground Level Theology, Dave.
Hey, it's me, and I'm back again.
Well, welcome back. Well, I noticed you have someone else on your screen.
Yeah, this
It's
is my other half. You've only seen half of me on these episodes, and now you get the whole Dave.
Are you
It's my
telling me
wife.
we only got half the content this entire time?
Correct. It's the truth. I'm sorry. Usually I try to give you the best I can and, the fullest, but I'm not that great. But when I have Amber here, you know, I talk so much better.
You get the whole flesh this time. We get the
No,
whole
actually,
Hauffman.
yeah, actually, it'll be interesting to see how she always makes me stammer and stutter my words, because I'm just,
Wow.
no pressure, But hopefully I'll
Well,
stay the same articulate, goofy, fun, somewhat thoughtful Dave.
welcome to the show, Amber.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Malcolm. Now, I see
Mr.
you
And
Malcolm.
also have a delightful young lady next to you. Why don't you
Yeah.
introduce her?
yeah, this is my wife, Candice Malcolm.
Woo! Round of applause, everybody. Light up applause sign. Let's
So,
go.
folks, here we are with our wives, and they are here, not just out of happen chance, but because our episode today is on pastors' wives, and so we wanted to give you guys the first person perspective on the topic, what it's like to be a pastor's wife, and kind of just interview the both of them, and as we get to unfold and explore the world a little bit, Dave and I, we don't know what it's like to be a pastor's wife. So
Nope,
we had to
never
bring in
will.
the experts, and luckily we knew a couple experts, and so we decided to bring them onto the show. So with that, as always, let's just go ahead and dive right into it. We have some questions that we gotta get through. We really want to make sure that we cover the topic in as in depth as possible, right? So we're going to be expecting all the Bible verses. We're going to be expecting the theology, the commentaries, right? We're going to need all the Greek
Yeah.
words here. I'm just
Mm.
kidding, folks.
Yeah, because you read what we read. You read what we read all the time.
My Greek is
Yeah.
terrible, but my Hebrew
Yeah.
on
Oh,
par.
your Hebrew. So,
Well, typically we would have to define our terms, but a pastor's wife is pretty self-explanatory. Dave, can you tell us what a pastor's wife is?
Well, if we just have a simple deduction of the word order, we understand that pastor is an adjective that modifies the wife in this case, where we can deduce that it's a wife whose husband is a pastor,
Hmm.
i.e., pastor's wife.
I really like how you use the term. No, I'm just kidding.
Gosh. Oh, man.
Well,
Yeah. It's a woman that's
I'm just
married to a
gonna go ahead
pastor.
and yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and throw this question at you. Let's just get this started and see how you guys what you guys think. First off, for both of you, what is it like to be married to extremely handsome and godly men?
Oh, that's a softball.
That's
It's
just
a softball
the
question.
absolute best. So highly blessed and favored.
Good, good, good.
Yes.
She has the gun underneath. I can.
Right. I love it. I gotta say, I have quite the handsome young fella
Yeah,
that I scooped up. So
yeah,
it's dreamy.
dreamy.
It's dreamy.
I think before we
Prince
started this,
Charming.
you said it was you feel like Proverbs 31 woman on steroids. I think is what you said
Yeah.
before we got on there. That's what you said.
Yeah.
Can't
And
lie.
it's the one part of the Bible I could relate to the most, you know?
Yeah, like Ruth is jealous. Ruth is so jealous. I'm like the better Boaz almost.
It's
But,
wonderful.
but seriously, this time, I'll go ahead and throw this question at you first, Amber, and then you can answer after, Candice. But how long have you been a Christian? And this isn't necessarily to ask for your testimony per se, but just kind of, how long have you been part of the faith?
So I started attending church regularly when we moved here to Westminster, Maryland in 2001, and I think um, I was hesitant to. Well, it wasn't an option to go to church. We went We went. My mother
Okay,
went, so we
yeah.
went. So at first, you're a young kid. You're like, oh, I just want to sleep in, stay at home. So I was a little hostile towards the idea, but I came to know and love Jesus with my whole heart, I would say about at the age of 10.
Yeah.
And I got baptized then. So that's from 10 on, and I'm 30 now. So 31, sorry. So 21 years. 21 years I've been a Christian.
Do
21
you think my
years
parents helped?
walking with the Lord.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been wonderful. Love it.
Do you think my parents helped?
That was before I got close with your parents, but they certainly aid me in my maturing in my faith, I would
Yeah.
say.
They were the youth pastors.
Yes.
Well, that was youth pastor, probably pastor's wife.
Yes, they were the second set of my youth pastors.
They
but
were
yes.
the initial wingmen. Got it.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
Yeah.
they were praying you into
Get
my
married.
life. Praying you
Yeah.
into yours.
Yeah.
That is,
I think they could
Nice.
attest
that's
to that.
funny.
Yeah, for sure.
And what about you, Candice? How long have you been a Christian?
I have been a Christian for 2 years this month.
Man,
2 years.
that's
I'm
wonderful.
a baby Christian.
Hey, every day's a miracle. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Both
keep it going.
ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right, and Amber, how long have you known Dave? How long have you known each other?
Big Dave. Okay. Well, like I said, we moved here. I moved to Westminster 2001, and we started attending this. At the time, it was First Assembly.
Yeah.
When we first started Hilltop now. And that happened in 2001. So David also attended, obviously him being a little bit younger. We weren't in the same peer group at the time. So I knew of him, but I didn't know him well until his parents took over to the youth group. And
Well,
I was
Yeah, we were both in children's church, but you were the ones that
I was the leader.
you didn't want to
He
go into
was-
the main service yet, so you helped watch
He
the
was the
kids,
attendant.
and I was the attendant.
Yeah, and I was the helper.
Yes.
My sister is a little bit older, and I always hung out with her, so they always thought I was older, even though I wasn't technically supposed to be in youth group at the age I was. So, but when your parents took over, I think I was in the 8th grade. So that would have been
2006.
Yeah, I would have been
Sorry.
13. So I know,
Sorry to
sorry,
answer.
to make it a short answer, I've known him since I was 13 years old. So,
18 years.
yeah, 18 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It sounds kind of,
I've known you longer than I haven't known you.
yeah.
That's
And we
awesome.
dated in 2013. So we've been in a relationship for
11 years.
11 years. So, yeah.
How long have you guys known each other without having dated?
Yeah. So 2006, 7 years. We did Disney World and family vacations together.
Oh, wow. So you were
played
even
paintball
close
together.
before then. You just didn't date. It was just.
Well, it comes
Yes.
from my parents being the youth.
Well,
like,
exactly.
directors.
So my
They really did.
wingmen, or David's wingmen,
My parents. Yes.
Paul and Alethea,
Hmm.
mostly Alethea, I would say.
Definitely.
They were my youth group leaders, so we got very close with them, and took a special bonding. And it was often that the older I got, we would, like she said, I would go on vacations.
Honduras, mission trips
Yeah,
together.
Honduras. We did missions trips with them. Alethea was always our chaperone / roommate a lot of times. So,
And did I get on your nerves ever?
yes.
Did you want to date me?
No, it was,
Yeah.
so we have a 3-year age difference. Actually, a
2
little
year,
bit.
10 months.
Yeah, 2 year, 10 months. Not let me. I don't want to add.
Those
time
2
to
months
that.
count, okay?
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
yeah.
Look, we started dating when he was 18, so everything's kosher. It's fine.
Right.
Yeah, I had to wait.
Just got to throw that out there. But yeah, at the time, I hung out with his mom a lot, and she was a great mentor to me. But David was nowhere on my radar. He was just kind of like
Right under your
the
nose.
youth groups, the youth
Pastor's kid.
kid.
Yeah.
So it didn't even occur to me until he mentioned it many, many years later that I think what he said was,
I think you're kind of hot.
no.
I'm just-
We I drove him around a lot to
no.
help his mom out to different practices and
say?
stuff. So we hung out a lot, and I always prayed for somebody that would be a friend first, that I felt comfortable with, who didn't really have ill expectations out of me. And I knew his heart and that he was a Christian. So it was easy to become friends the older he got. And we would hang out and go get ice cream and things like that. So I think it occurred to David much before me, because I always thought I would be some older man that I met in college one day. But
Well, you thought
he
we were
said-
friends first, and I
yeah,
was
we
like,
were friends first, and that's
turn
what I
around.
prayed for. But David said, I know we're really great friends, but I think about holding your hand often, and I don't think that's normal for just the kind of friends you want, or kind of friendship you may want. So I just wanted to throw that out there, because I think I would like to date you if you're willing. So
I don't want you to only be my friend.
Yeah, and at first I didn't really know how to respond, and
You're like,
yeah, it
You're
took a
just
little
shocked,
time,
yeah.
and then we went out on a date, and the rest is history. So
got in an argument
yeah, that's a whole other podcast.
because
Yeah.
we were friends. I took her
could
to her
describe.
favorite restaurant on our first date. Well, favorite chain.
Yeah.
But like, I just knew that
McDonald's.
already.
No,
Yeah.
not McDonald's.
Not McDonald's. Yeah,
Carrabba's.
Carrabba's.
We went to Carrabba's
Carrabba's.
on our first
Okay,
date.
okay.
Yeah.
And we saw Christmas lights because you love Christmas.
Yes, Hamden and Baltimore City does
Yeah.
a big light decoration. This whole street, all the houses inside and out.
Yeah.
So I'm a big Christmas fan. They
So it was a while.
Yeah, it's been
Yeah,
a while. Sorry, that was a long way of
Yeah.
saying
All right,
we've known
Candice.
each other
Yeah,
for a while.
beat that. Good luck.
But yeah, tell us your story, because I know your story is just as interesting
It's so fun.
about how you guys.
I already know what you guys don't.
Wow. Throw
So
some of us.
we've known each other for a year and a half-ish.
Yes.
That's
Wow,
about right.
man.
So
still didn't-
not nearly as long.
Yeah.
Yeah. We went on our first date and it was awesome. And I just wanted to keep seeing him. We
Wow.
didn't want our first date to end.
Good feeling.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because we didn't really know each other before, right? We
Yeah.
didn't have sort of the same story that you guys do. We get to grow up next to each other, or stuff like that. So we very much were in that dating
Yeah. We're
kind of
dating,
aspect.
dating with intention. Like we both
Sure.
were older when we started looking for somebody, and we were intently looking for somebody to marry. And so a lot of our conversations were like, what do you want in life, and what are you looking for, and do we meet each other's needs? And then when we finally actually went out and hung out with each other in person, it was like it was just perfect. It was comfortable, and it was like it felt like it was meant to be, so it was good.
Oh, that's
I love that.
awesome.
Wait, what was your first date? Please tell me it was burgers. Something involving burgers.
It was. So we met up, and I felt overdressed. I was like, who is this guy showing up in like shorts and a t-shirt on a first date? And then I was like, okay, well, whatever. And then we went to an arcade.
Very nice.
Oh, it's so
and
typical,
I
Mike.
whooped him in
Joe.
some go-kart and Mortal Kombat, and
That's when he knew you were the
Tekken,
one.
And
She was a ringer at
Yeah.
these. She kicked my butt on Tekken. I was like, okay,
Yes.
yeah,
you have
Yeah.
this at home?
I used to play a lot of Tekken with my brothers.
Oh my god, he's like, you know what this is? Let's
So-
go.
We completely finished the entire Simpsons arcade game, and then from there, he's like, all right, let's get some food, and his favorite is burgers, as we know now.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Well, I did know actually.
Well, we knew.
So
It's
we
okay,
went-
Candice. I know you're
We
catching
went to Slater's 50/50.
Wow.
Yay.
That location has since been shut down, so we haven't been able to go back to it. So anyway, we went to Slater's 50/50 and had really good food, burgers and garlic dip. which
You
I didn't
dip the
really.
burger
I love
in.
garlic, but I didn't want to eat any garlic because I was like, this is a
On a
first
first
date.
date.
Like,
Hi, Mike.
Yeah.
I've had a great time.
You just cover your mouth a lot, like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry,
yeah.
I just checking
It
your
was
breath.
shared, so it was
Subtly.
like,
Yeah.
hey, you eat, I eat, we're fine.
You're
Yeah.
not a vampire.
One
That's
giant
good. You're not a
garlic ball.
vampire.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then from there, we were supposed to call it a night, but we didn't want to. And so we were like, well, we could go bowling. Do you want to go bowling? So we went bowling. And he was
Nice.
teaching me how to do that curve thing.
Yeah,
funny.
he
Yeah,
thinks
that's
the
like
holes in the bowl are
He's an
optional.
avid
Yeah.
bowler apparently. So that was fun. And then we finally called it a night. And then I think we went on our second date to like Knott's Berry Farm. That was really
Of
fun.
course. Yes. Yes.
And so yeah, we just
Yeah.
kept seeing each other.
Yeah. Never
You
stop
still
seeing each
are,
other.
yeah. You're
Never
gonna
stop.
keep seeing each other for the rest of your life.
Don't
That's
blink.
the fun part.
Yep. No
So
blinking.
relatively shorter. Uh, definitely shorter by comparison.
Sure.
In
Yeah.
your defense, we are on the complete extreme of the other spectrum.
We
I wouldn't
are
say we're
the
the typical
exception.
couple.
We're the outlier.
And you know, that's what I think is
Yeah.
going to be so interesting about this episode is you guys very much are on opposite ends when it comes to your guys' stories and stuff. And so I think it's going to be great. But moving along here, because you know now we get to hear where you guys are coming from and how long we've known each other respectively. And so I just want to put this on the table now, because at some point in time you came to learn that the man that you were dating was called to be a pastor. And I just wanted to get your thoughts of what you were thinking when you learned that your significant other, that your soon-to-be husband, that your husband now would be a pastor, and what kind of went through your mind with that?
Yeah, so I guess I'll take the lead on that.
I ask you all the time what you were thinking. But
So,
here we go.
well, I'm sure. So I knew from the very beginning that David was going to be a pastor. I think, and David probably, I'm sure, has talked about this, about when he felt the call, and that I believe was on his missions trip in Panama when he was a teenager.
Before we started dating.
Yes, long before we started dating. So, and it's funny, in high school they used to call him Pastor Dave, and I think at the time they kind of thought it was like,
No, they wrote it in my yearbook and they meant it. It wasn't to make fun of me.
No, it wasn't
they
to
knew it was
make
a real
fun
deal.
of you.
They were all
but
prophesying.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
were.
exactly.
Pastor D.
Like David had that intention at a very young age, which not everybody has. But I think it's awesome. So I've known that from the very beginning before we started dating. I think we started dating and I knew that you were going off to Moody Bible Institute 6 months later. So not only did I know he was going to be a pastor, I knew I was going to be dating a future pastor long distance for the next 4 years.
Yeah, good old
So, which can also add a very different element to the relationship. But I mean, I knew I wanted a man who was a man of God, who had good faith, and what better to have somebody who was going to be a pastor. That's somebody who's called, and that's not something you take lightly or that just goes away. So I knew he was the real deal. That's for sure. And I love that. And that's what I wanted in a future spouse. And at the time when we started dating, it's not like, obviously when you're a Christian, you essentially court. Your intentions are to get to know each other to a point of where you decide like, hey, I'm in this to get married. So that was always our intention. So I always knew that it was a very real possibility if I was going to marry this man, when I figured out that shortly after that I was going to be a pastor's wife. And I mean, at the time I didn't find it super intimidating. I think I was just so in love and excited. It was like, he's going to do this. Let's do this. We're doing this together. So,
yeah, well, it's like a blessing to be 16 and know your major. Like there's so many people that like they want
Yeah,
to
that's
like
true.
they're trying to find
I still
themselves
haven't
and
figured mine out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same.
and they're just trying to find it right, and then you find a 16-year-old that's like, I'm going to be a pastor, applies to one school, gets in,
Yeah.
and then like and then like, and then like we even knew like if we don't work out, like this is what God wants for me. So he's either
Yeah.
going to knit our hearts together and bring you alongside, or like we're going to have a mutual understanding that's like, okay, I didn't sign up for this, and yeah, because it's already tough that even if it wasn't to be a pastor, me going off to school in Chicago when you're still in Maryland, already in college, you're a junior trying to get ready for your senior year, and you're dating a guy that's going off to college in another state 13 hours away for the first time to be a pastor.
Yeah.
So
right.
that's like, I think the Lord was already preparing you to be a pastor's wife, even in that season right there, because of just your patience and long suffering and endurance right there.
Long suffering.
And she's still
Felt very
suffering.
long.
She'll be suffering until death do us part. I'm so sorry.
We're just suffering together
But
now.
you said I do, and you know what? You said it. So
Okay.
Yeah.
but like Candice, well,
Yeah.
hey, when did you learn?
Yeah. Tell us how you learned. And what your thoughts
Yeah.
were.
When did you learn?
So
Oh.
I think like a month into us courting.
What do you do, Mike?
So here's the thing. So we met. Is
Yeah.
it okay for me to tell?
Yeah.
Okay, so we met on a Christian dating app.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm open about it.
And so
AI generate.
Oh my
Yes, I actually generated
He did not
The
look at
algorithm.
pictures.
all
for you.
all the entries come to me. I generated.
So we met on this app, and he, you put like about you and your job, and me being a baby Christian, I didn't know what bivocational meant, and the internet's literally on my fingertips, like I'm on my phone looking for a future husband. And I didn't think about looking up the word bivocational, and I kept asking him like, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? And so he was telling me like what his day job was, but
But on
didn't tell
Sundays.
me that he was aspiring, well, not aspiring, he was called to be a pastor. And then I think like a few weeks, like a month into us talking, before we decided to go on our first date, he's like, hey, I'm so stoked, or however you put it, that I got a senior pastor position. And I was like, what?
Oh, by the way,
Did you say
What?
pastor? Did
you're
I
not
hear
a
that?
senior.
And then I was like, wait a minute, because I had been praying and praying and praying to meet a godly man. And I said, I wanted a godly man. And then he's like, yeah, he's a pastor. And I was like, oh.
You have
I
to be
didn't
very
know that's how
specific in
godly.
prayer, Candice, because
Yeah.
he will answer that prayer.
Yeah,
We're not all
above and
perfect,
beyond.
but pastors,
Exceedingly and abundantly.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that's how I found out that I was going to be dating a pastor. And then,
You could still
you
bail.
know, I could have.
No,
And
can't.
then we started, I told him, well, he was very eager to get me to like meet everybody right away and go to his church. And I was like, pump the brakes. Like, you better be sure. You better be sure about me before you start introducing me to everybody, and especially your congregation. Like,
Good point.
like we're dating. You can't introduce just whoever you're dating to your congregation. Like, you better be
Ooh.
sure. So
That's
he asked
pastor's
me a
life
few
wisdom.
times.
Pastor life
He had
wisdom.
asked me a few times, and I was just like, no, no, no. And then finally on Christmas, he was like, come. And I was like, okay.
It's Christmas
Okay.
Eve. Come on,
So
it's Christmas.
essentially, he made you fall in love with them before he sprung the big pastor word.
Oh,
on you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wooed you.
Oh, by the way,
That was the plan.
The secret plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
No,
gosh.
I do have to kind of plead the fifth on that.
Oh, okay.
That is That may or may not have been the plan.
Allegedly.
Actually.
Hey, it worked out in your favor, so I'm kind of glad that
Yeah.
you did it, because now we have the lovely Candice with us. So
Certainly.
I'm
Exactly.
I hope
glad
it
that
worked out
yeah,
swimmingly.
it might have definitely happened,
Yeah.
thankfully.
The Lord willed it.
The
Did
Lord
it
willed
scare
it.
you though at first?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was
Good.
like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm just new to being a Christian in general. And I know I
Mm.
want to be married and I want to be married to a godly man, but there's all these expectations that I felt like come with being a pastor's wife. And I remember telling you on one of our first dates, like, are you sure you want to date me? Like, are you sure? Are you sure like I'm what you want for your future? Because like I don't have, I'm not skilled in anything. I'm not like participating in any, I'm not in choir
Mm,
and I'm not leading
Oh.
Bible studies and, all of that
yeah.
stuff. So I was just like, am I qualified to be a pastor's wife, let alone a girlfriend?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So,
Oh gosh, man. Well,
Yeah.
I think if you wait to be qualified to like really perfectly be a pastor, you won't find one. And if you wait to find someone perfectly,
Qualified
I
to
think you
be
need to
a
try to be a
wife
good wife,
to a pastor.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
and he tries to be a good husband,
Yeah.
and then I think he'll catch up. You know?
Yeah, and that was
Oh.
sort of the interesting thing too, because I mean I've gotten that question before of like, well, what are you looking for in a wife as someone who's a pastor? And that the whole idea of like, well, you got to be equally yoked. And we've talked about this at Moody, like in seminary and stuff with professors too. It's like, what does it look like to be equally yoked as someone who, like has a PhD and is a professor looking for a wife? Like, do they need to be also
Mm.
PhD, a professor? And one of we were talking about this in a class in a discussion, and he posed that what it meant to be equally yoked, and so that's kind of where I formulated my thoughts. And so I just told her, well, I'm not really looking for someone who's an absolute Bible scholar. I'm looking for the person whose heart is as after the Lord as mine is. I was like, because I can teach you all the stuff. All the knowledge can come freely. I'm an encyclopedia at this point. And so, like it's okay. I'm not really looking at someone who knows everything. I'm just looking at someone who has a heart for the Lord. And so the dating process was sort of to see that, whether she had a heart for the Lord, and she did. And there's even kind of growth that I got to be part of and got to see as we were going through the dating process. And so, yeah.
And I think one thing that is special that you guys have that I think is really cool, something we didn't have, is that you were able to baptize your future wife. What a wonderful experience to have together.
Yeah.
I thought that really touched my heart when I saw it. I was like, oh, and he's going to marry that woman. And it just made me tear up. So I think that's just so special that you guys could be together.
We weren't even engaged.
It was, well, it was funny too, because she said that she wanted to be baptized, right? And I told her, I'll baptize you, but later. And so I kept postponing her baptism, because on my end I said I don't want to baptize her and then we end up breaking up later down the line. I don't want her to have that story if that happens. And so I kept postponing her baptism until I knew that I wanted to be engaged to her. And so once I had made that conscious decision and now I was looking for a ring, that's about when I baptized her.
Yeah. They don't have that in the Book of Common Prayer about when to do a baptism. Well, what if you're dating her? They need to update some of the good old common books of worship.
Small subchapter. I don't think many people have that, but
appendix.
I love it.
Yeah, but it's so special.
It is.
Well,
I
gotta ask
my
now.
Boys,
so we talked about knowing that David was going to be a pastor, but like, what does a pastor's wife look like in your mind at the time? Like, what did that look like to you?
It's interesting you asked that, because I feel like what it looked like in my mind then is still what it looks like now, and it's what I feel like I'm totally opposite of.
Oh.
Actually, that's not
Oh.
true. I think now that, David's been in ministry. When did you graduate? Essentially
sweetheart,
right
I
out the
started
gate.
ministry way before Moody.
Right.
I've
Like
been a
we've always
Christian
been active
forever.
in the church, but
Yeah.
even shortly after
But paid.
graduating
Yeah.
Moody, we went to Charlotte where he did his seminary RTS.
I was a youth pastor.
And so he was a youth pastor there. So I guess we could say that was when we started our official
together.
full-time ministry together, and what that looked like. So, I mean, in my eyes, I've always had great examples in my life of pastors' wives and what that entails. And it's funny because each of the women I know, it's not like cookie cutter. They're not all the same.
No.
But there are certain traits that I feel like every pastor's wife had, and they exemplified that just so wonderfully. But
as soon as they found out, they poured into you too. It's like as soon as they knew that I wanted to be a pastor and that you were dating me to like want to get married.
Yeah.
I feel like they like swarmed you like even more of like, hey, we know what this girl needs to hear now to be like ahead of the curve a little bit. And their husbands poured into me.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. We had good examples.
Like at the time.
But I think before I even had those discussions where, okay, we're engaged. He's going.
It's happening.
He's going to get ordained. He's going to be a senior pastor. Like that's all. That's the end goal. It's not like he just wants to maybe see if he wants to be in youth for a little bit and then maybe teach. It was always the goal to be a senior pastor. So I think when a lot of people knew that, like he said, they poured into us. But right off the bat, I think I don't want to be like a cliche of what people think like a pastor's wife is, but you think of somebody who it's like, okay, they lead women's ministry, they lead children's church, like Candice said, somebody
Prayer
who's
warrior.
like, who's like really has like a certain niche that they're into, or niche, however you say that, niche.
Yeah, Nietzsche. No,
yeah,
Nietzsche.
yeah.
No.
Sorry. They, I think for me, like, I think me and Candice are on the same page with this. I've always seen a pastor's wife exemplify something that they did incredibly well and that they used
front.
in ministry.
And up front.
Right.
Like up front sometime during the service.
Like whether
like choir,
that's
like,
they were super bubbly prayer warriors. They did announcements every week and were just social butterflies. Me, I like to always say I'm a extroverted introvert.
Oh, yeah.
So I love talking to people, but I can only do it for so long. And then I just,
on the opposite side.
Yeah. And David's the whole opposite. So we pair together really well. He's my,
you're ready to
he takes
leave,
over. Yeah. He takes over from me when I'm, socially exhausted, I guess you could say. I love listening to people. It's just providing a lot of feedback. I sometimes close up. So going back to that, I was like, oh man, all these things I see exemplified, or what in my mind I think, I was like, oh, that's not me. I'm not like somebody who wants to get up in front of a congregation. I always would. I'm willing to do anything for the growth of the church and to help ministry, help my husband.
I don't have to.
But if unless somebody is like, hey, I really would love you to do this, I probably would gravitate towards things that I can do behind the scenes. Like I'm more of like a behind the scenes kind of person, which I don't always think every pastor's wife is. They normally are like,
well, it's like,
this is the pastor, here's her wife, she's doing this, let her tell you about this. So yeah, that's that. I mean, and that might be in my future. I know the Lord stretches you, but I'm not great at singing. We'll just put that out there. I can socialize. I could do announcements if you wanted me to, but outside of that, I probably would be like stuttering. Yeah, I can't talk for long periods of time without getting self-conscious.
I mean, I like to think I went before. Well, St. Paul's is great because they wanted to make sure it was a place that you wanted to go.
Yeah.
Like, and not like, they were very adamant. They're like, well, Dave, you seem like you want to have it. What does your wife think? You know what I mean? Because like we know it's a package deal, and we
Yeah.
also know, but we're not trying to get a 2-for-1 out of you, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
Where we're thinking, okay, if we got Dave, now we got his wife who's going to do blah blah blah, which is why St. Paul's Church really is a wonderful church. Because I was preparing to have to shelter her from that. You know, of like I expect my wife to do what I expect any other member of St. Paul's to do. So I hope to see you on Sundays. I hope that you want to participate in worship and listen to the service or the sermon and serve using the gifts God's given you.
Yeah.
And I really don't know who said you had to be anything other than that. But
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's like an
Well, we'll
expectation.
talk
about
more about that later.
yeah, for sure.
But I
Like
did
Candice
want to
will
kind of
yeah.
get a little bit of a contrast here as to maybe even a more clarification might be a better term. You were in some sense trained in the art of pastor's wife by pastors' wives around you, um, and they came alongside you. So you got a really good example of pastors' wives and what their lives were like and what it could be like or what it couldn't be like, right? Because you got to see a little bit of a spectrum there, as you were saying. Um, does that mean your view changed at all from what you thought a pastor's wife role would look like versus what it really is like, or are they gonna just stay the same because how much they poured into you?
I think it changed slightly because in our church, like David said, they've been so loving and gracious towards me. And that just made me feel such a relief and a lot of pressure off of what I expected I need to do to uphold that pastor's wife title. So they've been really great. So yeah, I feel like it's changed a little bit. I still I still have some kind of expectation for myself to where, and I think this may not just be a pastor's wife, but somebody who wants to be actively involved in ministry um, as a congregant, that I need to do more. And because I see so many pastors' wife doing so much, I still have this like high regard for them and the things that they do. So I know there's certain things where I'm like, okay, I need to step up my game. You know, as soon as the boys are a little bit older, I need to be involved in leading this ministry, this ministry. And that day might come, but I think a little bit of the pressure and misconception has come off my shoulders. And that's just more of me praying, talking with my husband, and just having such a loving congregation that really.
It's a make or break, I would say, actually. Not totally break, but I'm telling you, it makes it a little bit better for sure.
They're awesome. I can't say enough good things about our church. And so I would say for the most part, it's my viewpoint has changed. I still have certain things. It's hard when I talk to other pastors' wives because I feel like they still, I just have this view. I view them so highly because I see so many great women who are in pastors who are pastors' wives who are doing such amazing things where I'm like, okay, well, the bar is still pretty high. So I just need to catch up. But I think sometimes that's the enemy too. There's got to be a healthy balance to where you're not doing it for the wrong reasons, you know?
Right. Okay.
So.
And what about yourself? What was it like in your head? What did a pastor's wife look like in your head? And then how did that change to where it is now, if there was a change at all?
Yeah, so I didn't have any examples of what a pastor's wife was supposed to look like. I didn't grow up with, I didn't have a relationship with a pastor or their wife for that matter. So I didn't get really that pouring into that you talked about. And so, I mean, obviously, but when I was my short amount of church experience, I saw kind of basically what you were saying, like the pastor's wife is like right next to the pastor doing announcements or leading
The first lady.
worship or yeah, pretty much. It's like they're the first lady.
That's
Yeah,
what
it's a big deal.
that's in African American churches. That's
It
what y'all call. Yeah,
so
for
it
sure.
was a huge it seemed like there's like a lot of expectation, and I'm very much an introverted person. Like I mean, I will have conversations and I will step up to the plate if I need to. Like he's
There you
asked me,
go.
like, will you do this or would you want to? And I'm like, would I want to? No. Will
Yeah.
I? Okay, if you need me
Yeah,
to.
absolutely.
Yes, because you asked nicely.
But then there's, when I first started coming to the church and I was just like sitting around and he's like, oh, you don't have to, help or anything. And I'm like, there's like, I'm going to help out. I'm not going to just sit here and just wait. So I started helping out. And then that turned into kind of this perception that I was taking over
Taking it over. Yep.
hospitality. And I was like, wait, no, I'm not the pastor's wife. Like, I'm here.
Helping.
I'm a congregant just like you.
I'm just hospitable.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
helping,
Right.
not leading.
And then I think I had mentioned like a suggestion, like, like we need to grow, like the church needs to grow, like we need to have a children's ministry. And there was somebody in the church who had experience with children's ministry and they wanted to lead it if we had any children. And then we had children come to the church and she didn't lead. And so somebody had to. So I on the fly took over that, So it was like,
Yep.
what do
Yeah.
you do? And I'm not the pastor's wife at that time, so it was just like kind of being prepared, I guess, to step in when you need somebody to kind of fill in those roles. And so it's not what I had imagined it would be because I don't feel like I've changed much per se. Like it's just my heart is to serve the Lord and to support my significant other. So I'm going to be there for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think that's actually a really good stopping point for this, folks. Today, we are going to have a 2-part episode here on the Pastor's Wives. And so,
yeah, we made it to the 2-part.
Don't forget to like, don't forget to share, don't forget to subscribe. Let us know what you thought about this down in the comment section. We always enjoy your feedback. And as we are going through these episodes on Pastor's Wife, if you're a pastor's wife, let us know in the comments what you've gone through, what you thought, and tell us a little bit about your own story. But we will see you guys in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.